Good evening, everyone. It's been a long time. I've been working. We've been trying to grind in hard, trying to get back to the stage. But tonight is going to be really special. As we transition into this age of fathers, we're in the month of fatherhood. Father's Day is going to be on Sunday. And I wanted to take an opportunity to bring in some young men, older men that I had a privilege of growing up with. I have one of my senior statesmen here, Gerard Ware, one of my classmates in Shelton Savage. We're going to have some additional brothers that are going to come on and talk to us about what it means to be a father. The title for tonight is The Bros. Being able to talk, understand. I see Tim is joining in right now, but I want to be able to talk about what it means to be a father, the evolution of what it means to be a father from boys to men. We started out going our own path, doing the things that we saw other men in our lives do. As they shaped our lives from being a boy to a man, going through the military, whether we were going through college, things that shaped us. So I want to be able to talk with this panel about what do they view as a thing to be a good father, and what does that title mean when it comes to the community. So I'm going to give them a chance to introduce themselves. I'm going to start with the guy who started me in this podcast game, Mr. Gerard Ware. He got me hooked when he brought me on his show. So I'm going to start with him and try to give him a chance to try to introduce himself, and then we'll go to Shelton, and then we'll start with my boy, Tim.
My man, JD, what's up, brothers? And,
yes, sir.
And Tim, man, it's always good when I'm sharing the screen with familiar faces, especially people from my hometown, Texas County. So as you stated, I'm Gerard Ware. I'm a podcaster. I talk about a number of issues, especially around relationships and social justice type things right there. A mental health advocate. So I'm what I call, for people that are familiar with military terms, I'm that boots on the ground guy, right. Interacting with people, listening to people, one-on-one type issues, and just trying to make sure that we're resourced and knowledgeable and understanding about what we're going on. Just got to follow social media and the headlines and know that we are in some troubled times right now.
Yes, sir.
Sometimes people just need to know that they're heard and being listened to, and I just try to stand in the gap right there and operate in that space. So that's a little bit about me. Yes,
sir. Thank you, Gerard. Shelton?
Well, I'm Shelton Savage. Was in the military for like 23 years. So I got out of school and I stuck around Texas County for a little while and went to the military and never looked back. I ended up getting out and jumped into this executive protection game, and I haven't looked back since then. It's been something that's been special to me, and I love it, and I wouldn't change anything for the world for it.
Yes, sir. Welcome to the stage, man. Now for the firecracker of the group, looking suave over there in the seat, Mr. Tim Horton.
Hey, man, what's happening? Hey, now me and my daughter, man, we swinging down to San Antonio for the weekend, so I'm driving right now. So, but me, Tim Horton, grew up with you fellas, had a lot of good times with y'all, man. So, just doing my thing around here, man, just trying to live every day, train these people, train these athletes, train these kids to be better athletes, just better people, man. So that's what I do every day, all day.
That's a good deal, man. And when I looked at the people that I want to explore, I had some other guys. I'm hoping I can tap into you guys in the future as well for some different topics. But when I thought about some people, I look at you guys online a lot. I see the things that you're doing. I admire the work that you're doing. A lot of things that are going on in your lives. Like Gerard said, there's a lot of things that's going on in the community right now, in society as a whole, but specifically within our culture, that is really a need for a strong set of fathers to be able to come in. I know as a young father, I have two girls, and I was part of this group called the Watchdogs. And it's called Watch Dads of Great Students. And so I would always go to the school and I would see how the kids that were not mine would always gravitate to me by the way I would interact with my daughters. So I want to kind of bring you guys on and talk about from when we all grew up in Texas County. We walked those streets. We over Boyd Stevenson, of course, off of Belt Road. My boy Tim was, and we grew up in these areas, and we picked up different traits and different ideas. So we were able to shift from being boys to become men. But within that scope, we also became fathers. Some early, some later on in life. So when you think about that, what was the thing that truly hit you that you were a father, not just in title, but in heart? What was that moment like when you first became that father? And anyone can take the first.
Yeah, I'll just jump in there. For me, it's when I knew that my daughter, when I really came conscious of how dependent she was of me. You know, when they can't talk, but all they do is smile or cry. And you have to try to figure out what they're going through, if they're fed, if their diaper needs change, if they want to be consoled and all that right there. So understanding how dependent they were on me, we all similar, have similar upbringings, trying to figure life out as it's happening.
Yes, sir.
Right? So for
There's
me,
no blueprint.
Yeah. They tell you there's no manuals, there's some self-help, guidance like that, but nothing like the hands-on learning in real time. But for me, again, it was when I was able to see, like, she couldn't communicate other than a cry or a smile or a laugh, and just knowing that she was totally dependent on me, like, that was life-changing.
Yes, sir. That dependency is a big thing as a father. Same with me as with my girls. It's like, even now, they depend on me, even now in graduate school. And that role that we play is same for you guys. What was the moment for you, Shelton, with your child, your son or your daughter, that you knew that, hey, what is this moment is that I'm a father right now? What did it mean to you?
I guess it would have to be for me whenever my son was fresh out the oven. I literally took him in the bathroom and I cried. When I tell you, I held him and I cried like a baby, just like him. You know what I'm saying? I guess watching him grow, just seeing, certain things that he does, his manual, just how he'll do things like me. I always told, I hope he's bad. I just want him to be bad. I hope he's bad, and I don't know why I thought that, because he actually, I wanted that because he actually was. I mean, he was them terrible twos. They really meant that.
Sir. Yes, sir.
He meant that. But I wouldn't change anything for the world of him. Like that time frame was some of the best times, with my child, just watching him just do things and get in trouble and just, that's when I knew, right then, that you're a father and you gotta basically, he's watching you.
Yes, sir. They're always watching you.
So he's watching you. So, he's gonna do things that you do. So you got to set the example. So, that's how I knew right then and there.
And that's so telling. I didn't get the privilege of having a son, but my daughters, I know they watch everything I do, from where I budget to where I go to the store, how I shop. And I'm looking at them now. They're doing the same things. And I know with Tim, man, I know with you having your son at an early age, how did that impact you as a father, knowing that you in that role early?
Man, bro, it was tough because I had to grow up quick. You know what I mean? I had my oldest son. I had him 6 months before my 22nd birthday.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I had to realize that it wasn't just me now. And it mostly hit me when my dad told me, "You got somebody else to be responsible for other than yourself now." He said, "It's just not you." And it really hit me one day that, because I like shoes. So I went to go try to buy myself some stuff. And I got to thinking, what does my child need first? What do they need? What is his needs? So that's when it really hit me that, okay, yeah, I'm doing things different now, because I was so used to just going and getting the things I wanted. But now with him, I couldn't, because I had to make sure that his needs were met. His child care was taken care of. He was fed. He was clothed. And I had to put all his needs before mine. You know what I mean? So I think that's when it really hit me. I want to say, just like Sheldon early, because I had him so early. And I had to grow up quick. I had to learn how to be dad at 22, 23 years old. So he and I both was growing up at the same time, so to speak. You know what I mean? So, but There definitely isn't any type of manual for you. It's trial and error, just like a lot of other things. But eventually you'll figure it out. But when you have multiple children, you'll realize all those kids are not the same.
Yeah,
They're not. So you have to relearn how to be. You got to relearn how to be a parent each time because each child is different. You know, all three of my kids are just opposites of each other.
Right.
So every day you never stop learning on how to be a parent. My oldest son is 28 years old and he's still in my pocket and he's getting ready to go to law school. You see what I'm saying? So you just really gotta, so you know what I mean? So it's just one of those things. Yeah, it hit me once I realized when I started putting his needs above mine, when I was like, I am a real parent. So, but like I said, you live and learn. It got easier, but yet it also was hard, you know, so.
And that's what I want to talk about, looking at from where we are now, but also looking at the perspective of how were we brought up and groomed? How did our own upbringing shape the kind of father we are? Because, I really didn't, or the father we are, we didn't want to be if you had a difficult situation, because I didn't grow up with my father. He was often sometimes there, but he wasn't always a fixture in my life. So I always had my brothers. I'm the youngest of 10. I had the men in the church that I kind of looked at. And then when I went off to college, I had some mentors. But my father wasn't really there. I knew who he was. I would see him from time to time. I knew that I didn't want to do that with my girls. I didn't want to be like absentee father, or sometimes I'm here, I'll promise them things and then I don't show up for them. Because that means a lot to a kid when you say, I'm going to be there for you, I'm going to be there to guide you, I'm going to do these things for you, then you don't show up. So that can impact you. So with you guys, looking at that perspective of how you grew up and how you were brought up, how did that overall shape your life as a father, your pattern as a father?
I think for me, my pops was there, but he worked a lot.
Right.
So, like other men, I looked up to the people that I grew up around, the people I was around when I grew up. Mm-hmm. Newtown. I'm gonna shout out Beverly too, because I grew up in Beverly and in Newtown.
Yes, sir.
But I saw, things that, that I probably wouldn't have seen if, I was, with my pops.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If I was around him more. But when it came to, my kids, my children, I wanted to take them to the park. I wanted to take them, right, to different things and do things for them. I wanted to go to all their games. You know what I mean? I wanted to be that person that, I didn't have. You know what I'm saying? And like, no down talking my pops, you know what I'm saying? Like he didn't really go to much. Like I said, he worked a lot.
Right.
So I made sure that I went to everything that my kids had. You know what I'm saying? If I couldn't make it, I felt some type of way. But I try to be at every event that they had.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for us to be there, because the presence, I always hear the topic, are you here or are you present? It's a big difference. And I agree with you on that, Sheldon.
Yeah.
I think for me, I had my dad still here with me. He lived with me, so I still see my dad every day. You know what I'm saying? My parents been together over 50 years, right? But I also realized the way that my dad and my granddad and my parents and all, how they raised me, I can't raise my kids that way.
True.
Because, they were hard on us. They taught us things, and their delivery may not been the best, right? But I've tried. I've realized, somebody said this to me the other day, that we're like almost like inner city kids trying any intercity parents raising suburban kids.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So we had to grow up hard. Like Sheldon said, Beverly, Newtown. I didn't grow up over there, but I spent a lot of time over there. And that was rough upbringings in those areas, right? Mm-hmm. But our kids are not like that. We got our kids in a lot better or a lot different situations than what we had. So trying to raise my kids the way I was raised, I can't do that. I can't. I've tried it. Like my middle kid, PJ, he tunes me out if I try to raise him that way. So I had to, as a parent, and I had to learn different ways to parent each child. So my upbringing was different, but raising them that way, I couldn't do it. I had to come out with I had to be softer with one child, or I had to be harder with this child, or I had to, so it's different and it's tough, but you just have to learn, how to parent each child differently. You have to read books. I did. I actually read books on how to parent.
Right.
Because, it was situations I may run into, but there's things that I grew up with that I knew that my dad and my granddad and my uncles had prepared me for also. So, but yeah, you can't raise these kids the same way. Some of them you can, some of them you can't.
And that's so true. You muted, Gerard.
Yeah, just to piggyback on with them gentlemen, so I'm glad y'all went first because y'all highlighted how different it is, right? And it's not just from the generations, but even within the same household, you can have kids, within months or years apart, and just it takes differently, right? And they can come out differently. But I would just say my personal experience, my biological father wasn't there. It's a common story, but I was blessed to have a stepfather and uncles and other men that did step in, but that presence, and I'm glad you used that word, is different. And always knowing that my biological father wasn't there, it's at the back of my mind, and it's something that I wasn't really conscious of how it affected me until later on in life, and to Shelton's and Tim's point, like I didn't want to be certain things, and you as I stated earlier, you got a mindset on what you want to do, but you're literally learning on the fly. And some things I did great, and some things I didn't do so great. But one thing that I was a beneficiary of in my household, my family, was grace and mercy and kindness and forgiveness. So I was able to use those skill sets as I was raising my daughters and other, blended relationships that I've been in too. Where so again, you don't know everything, but I think if you got a core of those things, the mercy and the grace and forgiveness that and community, we all grew up. I was talking earlier to people about, this tribal mindset that we grew up in, the neighborhood grandma, the camp and all those things that we benefited from, right? And unfortunately, that's no longer the case in many aspects. You can't look at a child, and without somebody ready to jump you, right? So it's different. It is different. That don't mean that you're less concerned, but you just got to understand, as Tim said, it's different now. And just try to do the best you can. So.
And it's so telling. Have you guys ever had a moment? And like you said, it's a growing process. It's a learning thing. You don't have a true manual, but you have different things around you, and you bump your head and you make mistakes. One of the things I talked to you guys about when I was trying to get you involved was to talk about not only just the triumphs as a father, but also the failures or the things that we thought that when we look back on it, we might not have did a good job at. Have you ever realized that you were showing up for your kids in the wrong way? And how did you course correct that?
Oh, wow. Yeah. I'll just jump in. Just again, there's no manual, no accurate manual. There are some self-help books. And, one thing is you learn by default, just watching other people do something. And even what you don't learn, that's in some aspects learning, right? But yeah, being just not talking to my daughter in the best manner, that, you learn from, and again, this is not a knock on anything. Our parents are doing the best that they could at the time. But the way I talked to her, and I knew my daughter used to just shut down, it didn't work with her. So one of those things I learned early is just being polite, not being ugly and demeaning as I communicated with her. So I learned that early on, that it wasn't the right way to be. And thankfully, she was forgiving and we learned. Yeah, but that's one thing, just how I talk to her.
Yeah, I can attest to that as well. Just growing up, man, all of my sisters, but they were gone out of the house when I was there. So I didn't, having two girls, like they're a year and a half, maybe like 2 years apart. And like Tim said, they're different. My oldest, I'll have her go to. I don't have to worry about it. She's gonna go take care of it. She's gonna do my youngest. I'm gonna have to get real with her because she's different. But I had to learn from both of them that I got to be a little bit more gentler. I can't be the dunker on the grid line, so to speak, and be hyping because they're going to be there. The impression that they have of me is going to be important. I remember one time my youngest daughter, I heard her telling her mom had got onto her. She was little, and she said, "I don't like Dad. I don't like him." And I was like, and that shocked me. That brought me to the point, and I didn't want that because in my mind, I'm thinking I'm being the good parent and try to guide and discipline and do the things that. But I didn't want them to get to the point where they feared me or didn't feel like I was going to be there for them. So that was one thing that helped me course correct, just hearing that and just being more open to listen to them instead of just talking.
Yeah.
And just listening. Because like I said, they're going to deal with stuff, if you got girls, you're a male, so that, hey, you try to give them that advice, but you got to let them go and bump their heads and figure out that path themselves. So that was something that helped me course correct with being a father in that situation or scenario. So,
and it was like you gentlemen was saying, kids are different. You cannot raise your daughter like you raise your son.
Right.
So, I had to learn that. With me, I guess I could say it was more so the way that I talk to my kids. I was kind of stern around the house. If your room wasn't clean,
right,
if it wasn't done, I kind of wanted you, to do it then, not whenever you felt like it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's a lot. With kids, they do that, and they kind of get to where they do it whenever they feel like doing it. Not, because the way we was raised, if you didn't do it right then and there, it was some repercussions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now this day and age, you can't look at your child wrong before somebody's called. You know what I mean? And now they feel they can call them themselves. You know what I mean? So, it's I had to basically learn to the way that I talk to them. That was one thing that they kind of would hone in on. Just the way that I would speak to them and whatnot. So I can say it's pretty much that for me.
And that kind of leads into everything with the next topic that I want to talk about, is dealing with growth and accountability. Us looking at the man who we are, looking at ourselves in the mirror and thinking about how has fatherhood forced any of you to confront the parts of yourself you weren't ready to face. We don't always look at our own selves and see where we need to improve on or where we need to adapt in. Or one of my favorite shows outside of Gerard is The Pivot, allowing us to pivot, those pivotal moments. And what was that like for you guys, getting that opportunity just to look at yourself in the mirror and I guess kind of assess yourself for where you were as a father?
I'll go first in the one. Was Tim going to go first?
I think he was ready. He was ready to chime in.
Say it again. I was breaking up. So what's the question again? It's breaking up. I don't know if y'all can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you. The question is, how has fatherhood forced you to confront?
All right, because what was the question again? Because okay.
How has fatherhood forced you?
Y'all breaking up on me, so I don't know. I'm on my Wi-Fi. I'm on my Wi-Fi in my car, but it's like breaking in and out on me.
Yeah,
I might have to jump off because I can't get it to stay. Yeah, I might have to circle back around. Let me hang up and I call back on.
All right, we got that. But yeah, I really want to kind of look at that because a lot of times we kind of look at ourselves and we're the father, we're the head of the household is the title that we get when we do our taxes and when you grow up with the man of the house. But a lot of times we don't always look at how our role impacts those around us. Like we have wives. I think you're what, 30 years now in, Gerard?
Yeah.
I'll be 26 in July on the 21st. So we don't always do that, but that spouse over there always can bring us back to it.
Yeah.
What we don't see.
One of the things that I've grown from and learned and try to make sure I'm implementing is getting rid of that the expectation of perfection,
Right.
right? And part of that is talking to our kids and letting them know, like, hey, I don't have it all figured out, and
Right.
you know, just you know, for me in and of itself, it can be a challenge to admit that part, right? Even if you know it, but you know, communicating that to others, like it could be challenging. You know, then throw in like Sheldon and I, you know, with our military service, it's amplified, right? Especially start moving up in the ranks and getting to the senior ranks. So you're expected to be all, know all, and everything. So, but I learned later on, you know, and it was out the bump of my head several times that was my expectation, and it wasn't hers. Do they think that your daddy know everything? Absolutely, but
Yeah.
there's no expectation of perfection. That was something that I built and used to really to shield my insecurities, if you will, you know. So that was one of my biggest growths was learning that perfection was something that I was projecting and it wasn't even necessary. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
All right, I'm back, Jeremy. I got you.
I got you. And with that, Tim,
All
we're
right,
talking
so
about, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, so with me, I know Gerard was talking about expectations. To me, what I've learned is one thing is I've always allowed my kid to express their emotions freely.
Right.
Say what you feel, never suppress it, because I don't want you to feel like I'm diminishing your feelings about anything. So I always allow them to speak freely. If it's something you don't like, I want you to tell me. Don't sit there and hold it in. Just say, I don't like it. Let's have a real conversation about it. I think that's why my both my boys, especially, are pretty good at expressing their emotions and their feelings because I allow them to speak freely. I never want you to just hide it. If it's something that you have an issue with me, tell me. I'd rather for you to tell me. So that's me. I just always allow my kids to speak freely.
Yeah. And it's something for you within that, Shelton. And I know you and Gerard, you have that military background, and there's always that aspect of accountability in your roles in the military, making sure you're handling all your duties and your responsibilities there. But how do you hold yourself accountable as a father when no one else is watching? When no one is watching?
I guess with that, it's your integrity.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm not perfect. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't made to be perfect. I got things that I've done and stuff I've been through that I regret.
Right.
But it's just up to me to make it right. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to my kids, I mean, I'm actually going through, something right now with my children. You know what I mean? Like, my ex is out. They live in California and I live here in Texas. So it's the distance that it makes it hard. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, distance and time, especially time can really, hurt. It can do some things to you. You know what I'm saying? Because that's something you can't get back.
Right.
So it's more so, with my kids, I always, I want them to, speak freely. Like if they feel some type of way, just let me know. So that way I can address, if I did something wrong, if I, you want to talk to me about it, just let it out. Let's talk about it.
Right.
But, sometimes, especially, like when you're not there, it's kind of hard for them to express themselves whenever, you're not there in their presence.
Right.
And like me, I want to talk to you in your face.
Right.
Because I feel like, over text sometimes it can be forced.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it is, you can't really, see if you're getting a real emotion from them. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I would rather do it, in your face. And that way we have a better understanding. I can get your feelings and you can get mine. we get past it.
And through this evening, I know we all mentioned it throughout the different questioning and the discussion that's going on. We all reference back to when Gerard talked about the grandmother in the community, where we grew up, Beverly, Rose Hill, Newtown, over our Belt Road, OTM over there. And that shaped us. We had people, like you said, Gerard, we looked to our uncles and the deacons in the church that helped raise us, to help help our mothers raise us. How does your faith, your culture, and the community that you live in now, where you came from, influence how you are as a father now? because the things that we've watched, the things that we've encountered, you know, I live right down across the street, uh, not too far from when Rod got killed when we was in high school. So I wasn't that far away because, you know, like you said, it was hot. It was heated over in that area. We were in the age of those games and all of those things were going on. So we could have went that direction or go the direction that we went now. You went to the military. Me and Tim went off to school and doing things that we do. So how does your faith, the culture, and the community that you grew up in Nigeria now influence how you are as a father? And that could be
with me, I try to, you know, instill just being a all around good person with my kids. You know, always help somebody that's in need.
right.
So that is one thing when it comes to my faith, is because you know, never look down on somebody, because you never know what situation they're in. Sometimes they just may need a helping hand. Sometimes they may just need a shirt or something. Just always try to be an all around good person.
Right.
Never talk down on people. Don't bully people. Cause you know, we bully folks and we were bullied. You know, we did it growing up, but it's a different time now. These kids now, you bully, they might go home and hurt themselves. You know what I mean? So always, that's why I tell my children, just always be a good person. Always look out for others. Always look out for your siblings. And that is going to carry you a long way, because people see that and people recognize a good person.
Right.
I'll go next. That's a good question. We talk a lot about this, you know, in our community work. Like, what's your guiding light? What's your North Star? Where are your principles and your values? And you outlined it, you know, well in the question when you talked about your faith, you know, the culture, traditions. Those things are all important and they shape who we are. You know, even if you're not directly taught something,
Right.
you learn it from watching other people. And some of the things that Tim talked about, just being polite, being kind, you know, those kind of things. And then if you even want to go beyond that, you know, the belief system that transcends, you know, your own personal grievances or fears. For some people, it's their God, right?
Right.
I think we all inherently have something in us, right, that tells us right and wrong, good or bad, and it's up to us if we want to follow that right there. But when you're talking about the mark of manhood and fatherhood, when you have purpose,
Right.
reason to, you know, just to grow and to be better, you know, it's those things that push you forward, and part of those things are family and especially your children.
That's so true.
Yeah,
And
but me, I think, like I said, being a good person. You know, we all had, like, you know, people in the neighborhood that we would look up to. We all, you know, I guess, you know, you could say we had all these different mamas.
Right.
You know what I mean? So now that I'm back and, you know, at home and whatnot, I go check out these mamas. I go see
Right.
Miss Gwen. You know what I'm saying? I go see all these different people that helped me grow up, get me to where I'm at, kept me on the right path. You know, it's hard for, you know, I mean, it's not hard. I mean, these kids, they can get kind of like sucked into the wrong thing
True.
real easy. So, you know, when I see some kids or whatever that are out there doing something, you know, if they ain't got no business, you know, I'll holler at them, you know, try to, you know, talk to them like, you know, a big brother, like, hey, bro, come on out real quick. You know, nah, you know, that ain't cool. You know what I'm saying? That ain't cool to do that. You know what I'm saying? And you know, you gotta, now these days, you gotta watch how you talk to them.
Right.
You know what I mean? You know, we
That
got
mentorship,
YNs.
that mentorship piece is a big thing now. You can't. I found out that you can't necessarily be their friend because you're not in that space anymore. And you can't be like, man, you need to get out here. You ain't doing this. You ain't doing that. I think I move more towards of being a mentor.
Yeah.
So a lot of the young men that, you know, I talk with the young man in Texarkana right now. I had him on my show, Aiden. He's over doing the Juneteenth festival and the parade. I said the future is bright for that young man.
Yeah.
And I think and his mom is doing a phenomenal job raising him. She's doing a wonderful job raising him. And just to talk with him and see the influence, and Gerard, I know you have impact there as well. Just seeing him grow from started as a young man. Now he's getting ready to take flight into his adulthood once he get ready to graduate the following year. Being able to have those people in the culture that can mentor young men like that, and be able to help them grow. I think that's one of the big things, because I think about when we were at Pine Street, we were going to school there, when Mr. Moore came on the scene,
Yeah.
as our principal. That was big to see that in that role, one of us, and then he guided us, but he set us straight down the path where we're going to go. I always remember we had I think Leslie Levert came up with it, and it was called Pride, Personal Responsibilities and Daily Efforts. And you talked about Shelton integrity, and you talked about Gerard, that face of a father. I think that's what I tie into myself as when I go, because those little things, the people like Mr. Moore, Dr. Fruitro when I was at Henderson State, the men in my fraternity that groomed me and kind of guided me when my father wasn't there. So I didn't miss a lot, but I was able to learn. So I think that mentorship piece is really key with the young men and ladies that are coming up, because you might not realize it, but those young ladies are looking at us even more. The way we carry ourselves, the way we talk, the way we treat our wives, because they're looking for that person that's going to be there for them.
Yeah.
So I think that mentorship piece is one thing that I think is really key. Even when I meet with in my job, I meet with a lot of younger veterans. You know, they might have went straight from high school into the Army and the Marines or the Navy, just like Sheldon, you and Gerard did. And I talk with them about, what are your goals? What do you want to do? I'm not going to tell you what I feel you should, but what do you want to do? What do you believe that you're good at? Because you're moving into a different status right now. A lot of the young men that I work with and young ladies that I work with are either getting boarded out, and it's going to be a different life for them, because the military was their life, and they're having to reshape that, and it's a period of transition for them. So I think in my role, I always try to just to be a mentor and be a sounding board for them to kind of tell me what they're thinking, and then I can help them get where they want to go. So I think being a mentor of how people mentored me, they always talk about the gold or the platinum rule. So it may not always be reciprocated, but I always try to make sure that I'm putting forth the best me that I can be. I never try to really be anyone else, but I always try to be the best me that I can be, and hopefully that's going to be able to impart something into that person that might be questioning themselves about their future or their path or a decision they make. Because, like you said, we're not perfect. We're trying to chase that thing, but we're not perfect. And I think it's important for our youth to be able to see that, because we have our own kids, but by proxy, we're raising other kids by our actions and how we do that daily walk. So, yeah. And this one, I would like for this event, I really wanted for you guys to come in. You really did a stellar job to come in and talk about your path to being a father, the challenges, the triumphs that you came in and allowed you to be the father that you are. To be the father that you are. So I really want you to talk about, as we get ready to close, about the legacy and the long game of what it means to be a father. What do we want to leave behind? Not for just our kids, but our grandkids, and those young men and women that are connected to us by proxy. So what is the one thing you want your child or someone that you're connected with? What do you want them to leave without that? If we're gone from this earth right now, and one of those people that you mentored or that was in your life, what do you want them to say about you and how that you may have impacted their lives? Big question, I know.
I guess for me, it would be that I was there.
Right.
I always answered the phone. I was always there when they needed me. That I'm somebody they can look up to, and they want to basically just be like me.
Right.
Just it's I mean, it's just like that, bro. Like some kids and some people just get like mine. I'll use my kids for example. Um, right now, like my son, I want him to be able to know that his dad would do anything for him, help him in any kind of way that he can.
Right.
And like me, I'll do anything for my children. I'll do anything for them. You know, no matter how much I feel like, you know, okay, that I know this is unnecessary, I'm gonna do it anyway. You know what I mean? But one thing I guess I could say that I want my kids to know that I'm there for them.
Right.
I'm there.
Love that.
Yeah, and I like you not to copycat, you know, Sheldon, but that's it, right? I know in this culture where we're so money driven, you know, driven by the bag, money is everything. You know, money is a tool. I don't want to thumb my nose at it and act like it's not important.
Right.
You know, the Bible tells us that a good name is worth more
Right.
than silver and gold. So what you do with people, how you treat people, if you can be there for people, and not always in the form of money, right? But I would love for my legacy to be that Gerard was there. You know, he was present, he listened, he was, you know, this not this judgmental mindset, you know, where he look at people's faults and, you know, let that determine how you treat them. Right. And so I would say that to anybody, like if you're how you treat somebody, I really think like that's one of the core pillars in life and growth and all that, right? You're gonna be remembered. You know that old saying, and I'm gonna say it wrong. I always try to recite this right, but say people gonna always remember how you made them feel, right? Always, especially when they can do anything for you, right? They talk about do something for someone that can't repay you. Right. That goes the wrong way. You know, I remember growing up in the streets and learning, you know, trying to figure out what. And one of my greatest memories was my recruiter.
Right.
And his mission was to get me out of Texarkana. You know, he was like, with everything in me, I'm going to get you out of the city. And he'll show up when I went. If I was supposed to be at work, he'll show up to see if I was there. Right. If I called in, he know where to come find me. Sheldon, it was at that park in Newtown. You know,
under that tree,
right? You know, but that kind of stuff right there, you know, people are like, man, you tripping, but you look back and like, man, you were very instrumental and influential in who I am today. You know, am I perfect? No, but I care about people, and it that take you more than money would any day. We got, and not to get on a tangent about this, you know, there's some wealthy people in the office right now,
right,
and it's not enough.
Right.
Once I learned that money is a tool and it doesn't define people's value, it was life changing. And just trying to make sure that how I treat people reflects the God that I serve in so many words.
And that's so true. I once heard this pastor say, God gave us wealth so we can have an impact on somebody else's life.
Yeah.
And I think that's true. And that come from the recruiters, that come from the men in the community. Your father tells me, even though he worked a lot, he had a big impact, influence on you. And the men that mentored me in the church, the deacons, where so much to a point where when God called me to be in that role, how much reverence I had for that role because of the men that had impacted me that were in that in my life. I think about when we came home for our union recently, October, Shelton. Yeah. And seeing everyone, talking to Craig and seeing Craig Monroe, seeing he's well, doing well, looking at David Vasher and all of those people we grew up with in the city, and them knowing that my youngest daughter 8-10 hours away from me down in Commerce, and say, hey, if you need anything, call us. Let us know. You don't have to worry about driving there. Yeah. We'll take care. We'll stand in that for you.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll stand in that for you. And that meant the world to me, because I think that as fathers, we're going to have to stand in the gap for each other to guide us when we're doing right, to stand by to applaud us when we're doing right, but also to help course correct us when we see each other not doing what we're supposed to do. And then just to be there for one another. That's why I wanted to call this the bros, because my bros are, when I'm thinking about my brothers in the fraternity, if I need something, I can just call say Tony. My LB, I can say, hey man, this is what's going on. This is what I'm feeling like. this is what I'm going through, and I know that I can have that ear, and that's going to help me get back on the path where I need to go. And I feel like as fathers, we're going to have to be there because, like you said, Gerard, we're in a time and place where we got so-called leaders that are not leading us, that are not leading our people and our young men and our young women in the culture. They're not seeing the type of people that they need to see to help them.
At least they're not leading in the right way. They lead. Right. Yeah.
They're not leading the right way.
Yeah.
It's like that word has come skewed in our culture. And I think about when I always sit with my mom when she would talk about our ancestry and our heritage. She would talk about the people in the community, how everyone would go to the big house, like you talked about, Gerard, with our grandfather. He will impart that word to them or people in the community. And I still hear people talk about them and my family. And I think about, like you said, what do I want them to think about me or say about me when I'm no longer here? And you said it clear, Shelton, that you were here, that you were present, that you were there. You might not have had the funds to assist me, but just that word helped guide me where I needed to go. Sometimes I just need a word. Sometimes I'll go back and listen to a show. I'll listen to something and I'll look for a quote, or I'll message Pastor Reed down there to this guy and say, I need a scripture. This is what I'm dealing with. He'll send me that scripture that helps to guide me, get me on track, get me focused. And a lot of times as fathers, I don't always know if I'm doing the right thing as a father, but I hope to. And I always need that group of men there to help me, guide me, get me where I need to be. And I think I'm hoping that, like I keep saying, I always tell people, Gerard, you kind of started me in this because I remember you, I remember Bert, I remember Mark Burt and all those guys. Eric, I know he was trying to get on tonight. He just messaged us. We're going to get him back on for another one, but I remember you guys as those upperclassmen that I looked to and I looked up to. And then to see you going into the military, doing the great things that you guys are doing now. I love seeing you guys in your uniform. I love seeing you, Shelton, and things that you're doing now. And I'm hoping to have a deeper conversation with you because I know you've gone through some things that shaped you into who you are now. And I know you're on a path to like get to that greatness and that not perfection, but being where you feel comfortable, where you're your best self. And I'm hoping that this turns into that, where I can sit down and chop it up with you guys. And really love all the stuff you're doing, Gerard, the community service. Man, you're doing a phenomenal job. That's why I always talk about you when people say, how did you get involved in this? I always talk about your show. During COVID, when you invited me on there to talk about that topic, Jimmy, the Lynch topic. The Willie Lynch and being just brought in, it felt comfortable because, I travel a lot with my job. I was always going, so I never really, if I'm more talking to my frat brothers, I really just at home by myself. And so that gave me an opportunity to like, okay, I like this. You introduced me to something else. And I think that's the legacy that I want to bring to someone that I impact, is to give them the opportunity to see what they can do, to expose them to something that they never thought they may be interested in. So that's what I'm hoping out of this for us. Like really get the legacy in the long run, the long game of this, to keep connected with you, bros, and come back in and talk to you, not just about father, but all the things that you're doing. If I can help you with what you're doing, Gerard, I'm down in the area if there's something going on. When I'm down there with my daughter, if you got something going on, I want to roll through and assist where I can. Same with you, Sheldon, with the things that you're doing. I'm here to support and highlight anything that you have going on. So fatherhood, man, it's a big thing, but you can't do fatherhood without brotherhood. And I'm thankful for you guys for coming on and sharing your background and your path as fathers.
Yeah, thank you for having us, brother.
Yeah, it's definitely a pleasure, man. Again, it's always good with these familiar faces, man. When
we
break bread, but hey, I do have a few things going on, so let's talk.
Yeah.
Partner with all y'all, man. Some great things coming up. So yeah, on time, necessary things. So.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you guys coming on tonight. It was another good show. Us starting a new season. Me coming in. We're gonna have another show coming up. Still, my show, like I highlight everything that's good going on in Texas County. I don't get into the salacious. I'm going to start talking about some stuff that I see in the community. I think what we can do as a better job as a culture the Black culture, so to speak, to get our neighborhoods and our people is economically safe, fiscally fit, so that we can be able to help our communities grow. Because we're at a point where now, where everything that we have going on is under siege. Our voting rights, our women that work in federal services and in the community. I feel like we got to start. What did the song say? You and I got to do for you and I. I think that's we got to get back to that. What is that Black Wall Street, those Greenwoods, those Rosewood communities where we thrive based on the people in our community. So I'm hoping that I can be connecting more with you guys and the stuff that you're doing, Gerard, because you're doing a wonderful thing. And Sheldon, you're man. I wish I could be Texarkana, our community, our people, our responsibility. I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, so yeah, we always gonna go back and give back to our hometown, man.
Yeah, that's my hope. That's my hope to get back there, to get back to my hometown.
I'm definitely trying to work up a few things for Texarkana.
That's what's up.
So yeah, I think if I can pull this stuff off, I think it'll be a lot of people happy.
They take the word "if" is win. So that's
you got that right. You got that right. Yeah.
Okay. Again, fellas, I really appreciate you guys coming on. Tim is traveling. Eric, we're gonna get you back on here, get you set up. I saw you message me. I really appreciate you for agreeing to participate, and we're gonna get you on this again. I'm hoping to do this show again for the bros.
Sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sheldon, Gerard, Tim Horton, Eric Poe. This is the TXK State of Mind podcast. As always, what's your state of mind? And we'll see you next time.
All right.